Constant Craving, a short story read by Isabel Rock. The moon was high in the clear summer evening sky when I decided I had to leave. My growing sense of dissatisfaction had become unbearable. I knew there was a world out there that could give me some of the answers I was looking for, but actually leaving the chicken shed and my friends and family was a cruel wrench that I had been delaying. The other chickens said it was enough. They couldn't understand. They said that to lay eggs in the service of humans was what we were born for. It was our duty, our calling, the finest thing a hen could wish for. But it wasn't mine. We knew we were privileged. We were fine egg layers. Our lives were valuable, and our status was defined by how many eggs we could lay a day. We had a purpose and life goals. Other hens were bred for meat, pumped full of hormones. Their lives were short and sad, but not ours. So why did I feel so empty every time my womb contracted and another egg was pushed into the world? The farmer's radio would play music as he collected and sorted the day's eggs. We got to know the tunes. My favourite was Constant Craving by Katie Lang. Something in the song connected with me. It spoke about longing, wanting, an ancient desire for a different way. It wasn't just me who was affected by her, although I think I really got her. The others didn't understand their feelings. Her voice could bring on a wave of egg-laying as our wombs quivered and pulsed with the vibrations of the song. The pain of egg-laying, combined with the beautiful melodies of the song, produced an exciting effect, an exquisite sort of release. We called it a Katie laying moment and said it with American accents. But despite the camaraderie and the laughter, I felt hollow. I knew there was something else out there for me. Maybe a great magnet pulls all souls to what's true, said Katie. And the magnet was pulling me, away from the chicken shed and into the world beyond. It was when Sandra told me she didn't want to roost with me at night anymore that I decided to finally make the break. She had been my bosom companion in the sheds and one of the few hens I could have a decent conversation with. We would walk the perimeter fence and speculate as to what was out there. We listened to the news on the radio and wondered what the words war and bombs meant. Sandra said it sounded scary, but I was fascinated. Then the whispers started, the dirty looks and comments. They said I was stuck up, too clever, that I thought I was better than them. Maybe I was. Maybe I did. I didn't care, though. This wasn't my world. I asked Sandra to come with me, but she didn't want to. She said that her home was here, and she just wanted to get a top layer certificate and have an easy life. I felt disappointed in her, and a little bit of my love died. She began to spend more time with the other hens, giggling and comparing feathers. When I was denied the nightly comfort of her warm body beside me, I realized that the last thing holding me to the chicken sheds had gone. I must be off on my adventure alone. It was simple enough to escape. I hid myself in the farmer's bag and covered myself with a jumper. He carried me out, and when he wasn't looking, I hopped out into the farmyard and ran for it. My heart was in my beak, as they say. I couldn't believe my own audacity, that I could just walk out and leave this life behind. But it seemed that I could. No one stopped me, no dogs, no humans, no noisy neighbours calling the farmer and saying, "There's a chicken loose in our garden." I just walked and walked through a meadow, beside a river. I crossed a railway line. I avoided main roads, as we have heard many rumours about what happens to chickens who cross main roads. For 7 days and 7 nights I walked. Mother Nature provided plenty to eat. I relished my newfound freedom. I stopped frequently, as the familiar tug on my insides showed I was ready to release an egg. I had never wanted children, but that was the point of eggs. Why were the other chickens so happy to lay eggs, but never see them come to the ultimate fruition and raise their chicks? This is what had got me into trouble with the other hens. They were happy not to question stuff. They just accepted that their eggs were there for human consumption, something called a full English breakfast. I left my eggs where they fell. Useless things. As I walked, I wondered where to go. I didn't know anyone in the outside world. It seemed a very big place, going on for ages with no fence to stop you. Then it struck me. I did know someone in the outside world, someone very special and brilliant. Katie Lang. Or at least I felt like I knew her and she knew me. She had sung that song directly to me. I would go and find Katie Lang and present myself as her humble servant. I owed her my life, my freedom, my undying loyalty. Perhaps she would like an egg for her full English. It seemed like a brilliant plan, and I didn't know what the heck else to do. The question was, how to find her. Night began to fall, so I roosted in a tree. No fox was getting hold of my tasty piece of ass. I thought fondly of Sandra, and I wondered if she missed me. Probably not. She had changed so greatly. It would have been nice to have someone to share the adventure with, especially as the darkness crept over and sounds took on ominous forms and evil desires. I hadn't felt scared in the chicken sheds. It was safe there, and the metal fence that kept us in also kept other things out. I counted to 10 in my head to relax. Then again and again, I must have reached 100 when the mighty flapping of a great winged beast startled me out of my meditations. I was terrified. I thought it might be an eagle or a pterodactyl, but it was in fact an owl who was friendly enough. The owl was surprised to see me and inquired as to what I was doing there. I explained and told of my quest to find Katie Lang and lay her an egg for her full English. I asked the owl if they knew where to find her. Was she in the radio? Owls have a reputation for being wise, and this one gave me some useful information. They explained that the sounds on the radio were transmitted around the world and that probably Katie lived in a house somewhere, as most humans did. The owl ran a messaging service and so was pretty knowledgeable about who was where. They said they would ask around and see if they could find out anything. I did not see the owl again for a few days. I felt rather lost and sorry for myself. I wandered around pecking at things, but my heart wasn't in it. I had not anticipated that it would be so difficult to find Katie. I was eager to get to her and start my new life. Everything was bigger than me out here. Dogs were the worst. I had had a close brush with death by dog. It came slathering out of nowhere, drool hanging from its chops and panting with excitement. It was huge, and I thought my days were done. I would be mauled by this beast and die, unfulfilled and friendless, in this great, wide emptiness. However, a patch of brambles slowed it down, and I flapped up to a branch out of reach. My heart was pounding as the great beast barked and barked. Then its owner came past and said, "Come on, Betty, stop that barking. It's only a silly old chicken." I had never been so shocked and insulted. I'm not old. I'm in the prime of my life. I have many years of laying ahead of me. I'm certainly not silly, although plenty of the other chickens were. Perhaps we have a bad reputation. I believe the phrase running around like a headless chicken is sometimes used in a derogatory way by humans. However, I do not know at all what they mean by this. The owl returned with the useful information that Katie Lang lived in a house in Canada. Canada! It sounded so strange and romantic. It had a lovely ring to it. I was going to Canada. However, the owl added that Canada was very far away and one had to cross a great ocean to get to it. The biggest bit of water I knew was the pond at the farm, and I asked if the ocean was much bigger than that. The owl told me it was much, much bigger. So big that sometimes you could only see water. But it was hard for me to visualize. They told me that some birds fly there and it takes several days. They looked at my wing-to-body ratio and said that they doubted I could make it. I said that flying was not my primary purpose in life, that I was a champion egg layer and produced the tastiest eggs on the most regular basis. I admit that my ego was rather ruffled by their judgment, and I was slightly over-egging my own achievements and self-importance. I was pleased when the owl left me alone with my new knowledge. Owls are pretentious. I walked along, pecking and daydreaming, with the magical words of constant craving going round and round my head. I walked further and further in my melodic haze, and when I looked up, I found that I had wandered into a forest, which was not my intention at all. The forest was ominous, with unknown rustlings and strange calls from its inhabitants, probably nasty, violent creatures who would love to eat some hen. I was panicking as I could not see my way out of the wood for there being too many trees. It was then I stumbled upon a small basket, nearly tripping over it. "Oh, what a kerfuffle," I said to myself, feeling flustered. Imagine my surprise when a voice said back to me, "Kerfuffle!" I peeled back the blanket, and kerfuffle indeed. There was a charming creature inside. It had the nose of a pig, with big ears, but tiny little human hands. "Kerfuffle!" it said again. I couldn't leave this tiny person to fend for themselves in the forest, so I picked up the basket with my beak and took shelter in a hollow tree trunk. They were hungry, so I fed them an egg, and another, and another. I scratched around for insects outside, but never ventured too far from the tree in case Kerfuffle needed me. As Kerfuffle grew, they were skilled with their human hands and turned the tree into a proper home for us. We enjoyed each other's company very much. We laughed and talked about everything. I loved to watch Kerfuffle make things, and Kerfuffle looked after me and needed me too. My dream to go to Canada and find Katie began to fade into the background as I found satisfaction in my daily life. It wasn't that I had given up on it, but I was just so busy that it didn't seem as important anymore. I still might go one day, but the world is a rather large and scary place, and I mostly prefer to stay home. The great magnet had pulled me to Kerfuffle. One day, Kerfuffle came back with a CD player and something called an album by Katie Lang. It had many different songs on it, not just Constant Craving. As I listened to this album, which showed the versatility and power of her voice, I truly felt that my life was complete.